What's going on, guys? Sim here at YCS Minneapolis. My boy Asia Persuasion, you already know my boy Dre. And we're here with my son yet again, you already know. Mr. Don't Sleep on the Couch, Mr. Dominic Couch. How you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Doing all right. How we do at YCS Minneapolis?
I lost in top 32, but me, Jesse, and a few others like Mike Albanese, Kobe, made a really cool deck that I really had fun playing, and I think was really good. I just got kind of unlucky, and is what it is. But I just wanted to profile it for you guys.
Of course, as always. But as always, before we get into it, you got any shout-outs? I know you got a couple.
Yeah. So shout out to my sponsor, obviously, Top Choice Gaming. And then the biggest shout-outs was like building the deck. So like Jesse, Mike Albanese helped, Kobe. Those are like the biggest. Avery. It was awesome. I really had fun playing this deck. I actually really enjoy it. Bysted cards are really cool.
I had a shout out Luxury Gaming, my sponsor as well. And maybe you're watching it on his new channel with Kobe.
Yeah, there you
go.
go. I was going to say, Dom, don't forget your channel. Shout it out, bro.
Yep. So we just made a YouTube channel, me and Kobe, called the Millennium Rings. We're gonna start uploading more regularly, and we got some content, before Pasadena that should be up, and I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited to be subscribed to the couch.
There you go. Don't forget to subscribe to his Metafy.
Yeah.
It's in the description.
Always in the description.
That's everything?
Yeah.
All right, let's roll with this.
Let's do it.
So for the tier monsters, we played one Cyber Sign and two Rhino.
Is a tier?
Is it not? I could put it next to Instant Fusion. But pretty much like this card's really crazy because with so many Bysteds in the format, being able to fusion summon without touching your grave, also not using a name, is super important. And it's level 2, so it can summon Elf, but it can also summon our new favorite toy, Sprint.
Ooh.
So a big thing is before this tournament, or before Dabble, was they wanted Valor, Kit, or Mourner. Or sorry, Valor, Imperm, or Mourner your Kid Kalas. Because that shuts off like several effects at once. And when you lead with Stein, that's not really a good answer for them, because if they do that, like on the Kit, then now you have a 5, and you have the Kit and the Stein to make Sprint, and you keep fusing. So they're forced to do it on the Stein if they want to stop you there. At which point you can just play like normally, I'm assuming you can, which isn't hard, then the Kit gets the resolve.
True.
And then I just didn't want to play 3 Rhino because with so many Bysteds, like it's definitely the worst card to lead with. You like normal Rhino, send a guy, it gets Bysted, and it's like pretty hard to recover. It's not a 2, it's not dark, like it's rough. And then 3 of all the tiers you fuse with, you just like have to max out on these. I think these are pretty self-explanatory. And then we played Brandon in High Spirits, so for High Spirits we played these. This is a new card.
Record, I wish I played more for this, practice more for the tournament, because I would have in theory realized these cards were terrible, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think, he said they worked well for him. For me, they were the worst cards in my deck.
Yeah, like it's like case-by-case basis. I don't think that the cards are great. I probably wouldn't play them again, but for me, like, I did draw it live a lot, whereas other people in the circle drew, like Jesse and Mike, like drew it dead a lot. I drew it pretty live, but we had like a Baron combo with this card and stuff like that, and I only summoned Baron like one time the entire tournament. I think it's just overkill, and we wanted to play High Spirits because it plays around Bysteds in theory, but
It is crazy going first when it, if you draw plus a tier, and like it's in theory, like what you look at as at a macro level, then yeah, that works like fantastic. But in all the other situations, like when you're actually playing the game, it just always ended up being very awkward for me. Where I had it without a tier, then I had to desire, then advance my targets, and then without a card. But one time I drew it live, I had 3 of them, so that can happen with anything, I guess. But I just have bricks in my hand, or I'd be forced to add this card in my deck, and it's not a good draw. So.
yeah, we would have probably just played less cards because we played 43. So
What should have been the red flag for me was we were discussing our side plan before the tournament, and I kind of wanted to say something, but I didn't, and this is a mistake for sure. We kept talking about how we'd probably side it out for Sprite and versus Tier, and those are the 2 best decks in the game. Besides going second. But if you're siding out a card going second against the 2 matchups you expect more than anything else in the format, that tells me it's a trap. It's literally just a card you only want to go first. Which at that point, I guess you can side, and use it like a Talents X type card that lets you push through the expected hand traps when you play first. As just a general main deck option, if it's only good going first, it probably doesn't have a spot in the deck.
Yeah, I agree. And for the Bysteds, we actually played 12. So, like Jesse mentioned before, we expected like Tearlaments and Sprite to be the most represented decks, and the Bysted cards against Sprite are just like so aggressive and force all their interactions just by entering your battle phase that even though they don't banish things that matter against Sprite the majority of the time, other than like Cap Shell, sometimes they'll like tribute Cap Shell or detach it and you chain and they miss their draw. But outside of Cap Shell, you're not banishing anything that matters against them, but you're being so aggressive that they can't really keep up. And then against Tier, like you're making them miss names. You're also creating resources for yourself when you have multiples by being able to summon like Beatrice or this new card we really like called Wolo.
I think you can treat it almost as you have. They can be acted as like dangers versus Sprite, where you'd rather just overwhelm them with big bodies because it checks Toad for 1/1 and any of their interrupts. And then in the mirror, it treats as a hand trap because that's what you'd want. So it fixes that issue like the dangers had, where it can fill either role depending on what you need it to do. A cool play for that makes like Rebellion really sick. That I think is worth noting is you don't want to just discard straight away. You get Magnumite, and it kind of makes Rhino a little better because if you get Magnumited on when you normal Rhino, and they stop you there. If you help the Rebellion, you can then Rebellion for Druid Worm. Summon the Druid Worm, and then make Dark. The Druid Worm sends their Magnumite, you steal Magnumite, you trigger it, and then you go sprint and you send the Merly and it triggers the Rhino Heart.
And then you fuse and you get a dragon. It's like you put yourself so far ahead.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So yeah, just one thing to note, keeping with Rebellion, it's not auto use it straight away. Yeah, these cards were very, very solid. And then obviously there's multiple effects. It's good. Another good thing to keep an eye on if you haven't played this card before is Rebellion's Grave to summon itself effect. It's not actually an effect.
Yep.
It's like Machina Fortress. So if they Dweller you or Necrovalue you, you'll still just do it. So, yeah.
Which is really good because we also played. I was going to do the spells next, but it just makes sense to talk about this now. We played Branded Beast, which Lubellion has a third effect, which when it's on the board, you can activate a branded continuous spell or trap from your deck. And so we played 2 of this because if you mill 1, well, this was our Mystic Mine out also. So if you mill 1, it's actually good for you because when you activate this from your deck, this Branded Beast card has an effect that in the end phase, you can activate another continuous spell or trap branded card from your grave. So if you mill 1, you just end up with both, and there's soft ones per turn, so it's 1 per copy. So you just end up with like two pop type of effects, which especially in combination with like Druid Worm, which is the one that you're gonna have when you go first the majority of the time, then you end up with just like 3 sends, and especially if you summon like Dweller or something in the mirror, you can't beat that. It's so hard. And then it was also really good against like the Runic Sprite deck because this card is a card that actually deals with Fountain rather than having to like rely on Planet fusing on their turn and popping or something like that. You can just deal with the problems immediately. And then yeah, again, it was our Mystic Mine out.
Very easily searchable.
Yeah.
You obviously saw in here Consent, either the Rebellion or the Beast.
I'll be unconsented too, which is cool. And then the spells, we played maximum amount of Planet. Pretty self-explanatory. The card's just really good. And then we played High Spirits. Yeah, we kind of touched on this earlier already, but I probably wouldn't play it again. But it actually was pretty good for me at this tournament because of how many Bysted decks there were. Like those cards were in, I think, all of my opponent's decks except like 1.
Yeah, they are good versus Bysteds, but I think that's about like it.
Yeah.
There were a couple of conflictions that aren't like super apparent on first glance. Like one where Dom brought up to me on the side earlier. If he goes second and he has to have this, like the ideal play now that we have Lulu is you want to go like fuse in. If you hit a name, fuse in a kid, send them to the name, make Lulu. Now you have a real negate, not just Dragus to PL.
Yeah.
But if you do that now, Branded and High Spirits is dead.
Yeah, exactly. So like drawing this card going second with Havnus is just like
weird. It's
unplayable
not-
almost. Yeah, like
It's counterintuitive, and then you also have issues where like Blue's gone because you wanted to play with it, which is understandable. Now even though Nad's back, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So there were just so many small things that piled up together that maybe this card is not worth it.
yeah, and that just came from like us not playing enough before the tournament because we were really busy.
This deck was
we
mostly
probably-
theory based. We didn't get as much
Yeah.
testing like proper as we would have liked.
One God card. Shout out Nick Shadek for the Max Rounds Infusion. I'll play it forever.
Nice. Max Round.
And then 2 Desires, just good card. You like every card in this deck except like Branded Beast, pretty much. Like you just want to draw, and like the red Cartesia, like just
And high
It's really
speeds.
I'm
joking. I'm joking.
But yeah, it's like really simple explanation, but yeah, you just want to draw multiple Bysteds, multiple tiers. Cards work better in multiples.
This is the better high spirits because it answers the Bystials like we actually wanted
Yeah,
it to.
exactly. Like, and we talked about the Magnemite thing with Lubellion earlier. This card actually does something really similar. If they Magnemite you on like Rhino, you can just take their Magnemite and then link it into Dark, steal their Magnemite, trigger its effects, sprint.
That's correct.
Just like if you had Druid Worm.
Drawing 2 is also good.
Yeah, drawing 2 is also good. Like this card's good going second against like the Sprite boards. Also just takes Avermax and kills them because everybody.
You're missing actually the biggest interaction you originally sold me on it for. Was especially in the mirror, we side more cards to do some of the thing.
Oh, yeah,
Is
yeah.
you steal their Lulu Karos, and now what's the name? Real Karos or Real Kalos?
Yeah, Real
whatever the
Kalos,
TCG name is.
whatever
Yeah.
it's called.
And now you can use their Real Kalos to get their Bysted. So it removes a guy from the field. It can also turn off their Select sometimes. So you get rid of several negates, and then also now they can't Bysted you. So that's so much swinging with one card.
So hard
Yeah.
to win after that. Like there were times I won like through a Bystwell.
It was like your
because of
best
this
shot
card.
to win 2 dwellers, like that probably.
And that was like our biggest thing with
surprisingly more than Super Poly.
yeah, because we had Super Poly in our deck till like Thursday night, and
Still
we
solid,
we
yeah.
we
It's still good. I
switched
think this is
them.
better. Yeah.
I agree. I was
liked
never
it.
like
I was
upset with
happy
that card.
with
Yeah.
it, I was just happy to do 3 of them once, but that was it.
Yeah, I drew 2 in top 32, and it was like, damn. But oh well. And 2 Solic. Milling this card's really good, and it's better than playing the 3rd Rhino Heart, especially when you play a card like Paw of Desires. You just have to make small concessions in deck building, so you don't like end up with your back against the wall, not playing with something. And this card, especially with like Kaleido Heart, is still a very very good fusion, and it just ends up being really negating cards is so broken. Is really what it comes down to.
So it should be 43 in the main deck.
Yeah, it's 43 in the main deck, and then you guys want extra deck or side deck?
You choose.
Extra deck. The most unsummoned card in my extra deck was Baron.
Wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Summoned it all the time,
You summoned it a
huh,
lot?
I summoned it once.
I also summoned it once.
Yeah, but I didn't summon Borlot at all.
Ooh. I summoned Borlo twice.
Sounds like it's on a handful.
And we played Elf, Sprint, and Dark. These cards are just so ridiculous. Like, this card pushes through hand traps so well. And Borlo Dragon was my idea because we couldn't really find good answers to Abyss Dweller, which is why we play cards like Tactics and other cards in the side deck. So I was like, hey, Jesse, if we cannot, like, prevent the Dweller and win because that costs too many cards, what if when we play the Mirror and they Dweller us, if we can get to Borlo Dragon and take their Dweller to Dweller them back? And so, like, that's originally what this card was for, and then also it outs like the annoying untargetable cards like Avermax, Guardian Chimera, stuff like that. Kaleido Heart is a card that can be difficult to deal with. So I would play it again. I didn't summon it that much, but
I think in theory it's fine. I don't think
yeah,
we cut it. That was good.
yeah. This card can go though. Yeah, this card still needs to be banned. It's so ridiculous in the mirror. Then Beatrice and Wolo for the Bysted cards. Beatrice is pretty self-explanatory, but this card is so ridiculous. Like,
Use your Ouroboros? I mean, it's different, but it's...
yeah, it's
So, for people that don't know what the card does, it says all your monsters gain 100 attack for every card opponent's grade. So, if
And
like
defense.
a tier mirror... Yeah, so if it's like a tier mirror, it's 20 engrave, all you guys are up 2k. That is such a huge push in attack points, so, like, it's really good. But, like, obviously that's not it. Otherwise, I mean, you may still play it, but it has another effect that says you can once per turn, quick effect, both players' turns, target a card your opponent's grave, and then detach either 1 or 2 cards. If you detach 1 card, shuffle that card back in the deck, which is already pretty good.
Yeah.
If you detach 2, however, you can either special summon that monster, or if it's spell trap, set it to your field.
yeah.
Jesus.
You could steal. I stole Super Poly. You sold.
I stole Instant Fusion like 4 times. Like
I didn't do.
That's
I wish
so
I did
sad.
that.
they just like mill Instant Fusion, or they activate it, and you had like some sort of Bysted pushback, so they didn't end on like a God board, and you just like make this with your Bysted push, and like take their Instant Fusion, and they like negate 1 to 2 tiers, and it doesn't matter because you got to summon kit with their cards.
Yeah, I got played against the tier
ridiculous.
guy, and my hand was just all Bysteds. So 7 3 Bysteds. He had the Dweller pass. And okay, attack, make this 3 materials, steal a Super Poly, and then I have an interrupt and a Super Poly. That's
Oh,
awesome.
something I did against. I did what we talked about.
Yeah, it's 2+ materials, by the way.
Yeah, it is. You summoned it with 3 one round, right?
3, yeah, steal Super Poly and stuff with interrupts. Yeah.
Jeez.
So something I brought up to Jesse about this card was if the Runic Sprite deck Eradicators you,
You can steal there.
you can take the Eradicator and it's a target.
Yeah.
So this Runic Sprite guy, it actually happened. The Runic Sprite guy Eradicated me, and then I summoned this, took his Eradicated him back, and the game was over. 'Cause I discarded 1 card, and he discarded 4. And then 2 Kit Kalos, so I still don't feel like you actually summon 2 that often, but you have to play 2 because of this card and the existence of all the Bystial cards. So like at Niagara, in the tier decks, most people played 1 because if it got banished, it wasn't that big of a deal. You had so many link monsters and other lines of play that it was fine. But now, like if they banish this out of your grave, not only does it cut off access to Kit Kalos the rest of the game, but now you cut off access to summoning this card, unless you have Cyberstein. But that's one of
The Mad Doctor.
The Mad Doctor.
Mad Doctor.
And this card's obviously crazy. Like, negated like starters, negated like an IP going second. It makes Havna so much better because you're summoning this instead of summoning Drago Stapelia. Like, the card's just so good. Kaleido Heart is pretty self-explanatory. The card's still just really good. And then the other fusions, you still play them all.
Commonplace at this point, right?
Yeah, like, you just have to. This card's so good against the Runic Sprite deck.
I think it's good in the mirror as well. The card's very
It is.
underrated. If you time it right, that card is insane.
Yeah. And then the side deck, we sided
I
Exterio.
really wanted to main it. That's weird.
Yeah, like we
insane.
could have cut Baron for it, but the card I really wanted to play over Baron was IP Masquerena.
I don't feel like that, but I like
But-
this card.
Yeah, I sided this in all the time. I really wanted to summon it, but I also didn't play against that many Runic Sprites, which is what,
What about
it was
Pendulum
for.
as well, right? Like,
Yeah, I didn't play against that deck either.
Yeah.
So I played against so much tier.
yeah, I just think, it's just a good negate, right? And like,
Yeah.
So you Stein as a starter, but you can also sometimes mill it and then alpha back and as an extender if you don't need another tier card. And this card is just like, insane. It's also like if you know you're playing against a very spell heavy deck, there's a cool combo you can do, which it takes 2 seconds. I'll just show it to you. It's very flexible, so this is actually like the only way to
sprint,
do
right?
it. But like I'm showing you, it's literally this does it. To show you how simple it is. Where you can go Sharon effect, send Sharon, mill 3, it doesn't matter. Fuse the 2 Sharons away, summon Kit.
You got anything else, right?
No.
Okay.
So you got a Merly, mill 3, whiff again. So you mill 6, mill, but it doesn't matter. Make Sprint, send Stein. I mean, this is simple. I'm sure you guys can see where it's going from here, but it's just you want to hold this to send this because otherwise, making this is a 2-card commitment that you can't link away that turn. So it's actually netting -2 link materials.
Yep.
So if you're holding this to trade off instead of popping itself, you're not getting mills, but you're saving yourself 1 material link, which does matter in like some combos where you want to find the easiest way to get to Stein.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
Like that was 3 Sharons. Like that wasn't a good hand.
even real, yeah.
But
All
yeah,
this.
so like you could do it very easily other ways as well. But this was like a simplified combo that you can make work.
Damn.
Which I was very, like, I never did it, but I was very glad it was in our deck. Like, I think it was a good idea. Same with, like, it's similar to, like, Borlode. I think it was a great idea, even if it didn't happen that often. Change of heart, mind control, enemy controller. So these were the cards we talked about earlier with the, like, steal your stuff cards that, again, we couldn't, like, really figure out a way to prevent the dwellers. So the best way to deal with it was, like, beat them other ways. So like using these to take their Lulu, because a lot of people don't end on Elf anymore. It's just there for free, and then they can't Bysted you. You can negate like them even fusing. It's so good. And then it was even pretty good against like I played against Drytron, and he just like made an Appaloosa for 4, and I just mind controlled it,
Jesus.
and the game was over.
So people may ask why one enemy controller, because obviously the others are limited, that one's not. When you're building a side deck, what you're not doing is just putting the cards in. You're deciding how many spots you want to allocate for each purpose first. So we knew we'd want to side out 6 cards against tier going second. So we want to allocate 6 spots in our side deck for going second. Now there's 3 more cards we haven't shown yet, but if we consider, then we put in the 6 best cards. We'd have the 3 best we're about to show, Super Poly. The next best card would be this. Next best would be this. And even though you could play 3 econs, We only have one spot left, and this is the next best card. So that's why we end up with one enemy controller.
Yep.
It's important to take that logic because it looks weird with one. And anytime you see weird ratios, there should be a logic behind it, right? Not just two ugs because it looks neat. Like you could have figured 2 econ, 2 poly because it looks more neat, but that's just OCD speaking. That's not actually correct. It's important to just have logic behind your decisions, and that's why we have those numbers.
Exactly. Like if change order or mind control was at more than one, it would have been that instead. It was just the next best option. And then 3 super poly. That card was really just for the mirror, and I still sided against like Sprite and random stuff with the pendulum decks. You just kind of have to look at their end board, see if it's good or not. And 3 cosmic for like runic Sprite, random back row decks. This card's just so good right now. Like hitting fountain, they don't have a way to really protect it. Yeah, I think this card's like staple. It should be in every side deck. And then the traps we sided for going first were Eradicator and Crime. I didn't normally side Eradicator versus the mirror unless
I didn't.
Yeah,
This is
I
a
did.
runic version. I played a runic tier, so I did that.
Or if I saw like a lot of spells in their deck game 1, then
What spells would I
I
expect?
did.
Because like, if it's super poly, it's like not great. I mean, it's just talents, right? I guess.
yeah, it's like talents. If you see
So,
mine,
talents
stuff like
permanent.
that.
Mine.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess if I see a mine version.
Yeah. But it's like really good against like runic Sprite. A lot of decks' only ways to beat your board is with spells, so cards just above average. And then sided Crime because the like weakness of our board is like we said. Ideally, we draw high spirits and summon this, but it doesn't actually happen that often. So our deck doesn't have like a natural answer to evenly matched. Which against like the tier decks and like
Kotton.
graveyard decks stuff, yeah.
Stereo. Yep.
But
I did that. So I had 2 evenings against me, and I had Exterior on the field.
really,
Yeah. He was so tight.
didn't tell me that. I'd be tight.
I'd be tight. Exterior kind of nice.
It was the best hand I had the entire tournament. I opened up with Desires, High Spirits, Magnum, but I ended on Volo, Exterio, Rule Kalos, Kaleidos, Sets, Solid Crime, Man Beast.
What's your hand?
It was the best hand I've ever seen with this
Unbreakable
deck.
board.
That's so ridiculous. but yeah, so like Crime was just for evenly matched. Like it can negate like Droplet on Dweller, stuff like that. But yeah, it was just so that we made sure we had an answer for evenly against the decks that didn't lose to Dweller. Because if the tier deck like evenlies you after you Dweller them, you're just gonna keep the Dweller and they can't kill it. So they're gonna like pass turn twice. And if you think that like you can't kill them with 2 battle phases, then that's another issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the deck.
Wow. Always a pleasure, Dom. Jesse, a pleasure. Thanks for being on the channel, you guys. Congrats on another top, son. We'll see you in the next event. We'll all be at Pasadena. Congratulations on another top. Thank you for the deck profile.